Hi, I'm Britt,
And my name is Alyssa.
and this is Skeletales.
And this is the podcast where we strive to answer the age-old question of, is my dead grandma watching me?
That's right. We also share true tales of the strange, unusual, and paranormal.
Heck yeah, we do. Hey, Britt, what are we talking about this week?
Well, I hope you've been practicing your accents, Alyssa, because this week we are bringing the most Irish-ish stories that you can imagine. In honor of St. Patty's.
Yes. Top of the morning to you.
Oh, all right. I've got a story for you.
Heck
It
yeah.
did not happen these weeks today. It happened days and days and weeks ago in the year of 1832.
Oh, shit.
I have a story from Dublin, Ireland, about a pub called Cavanaugh's Pub, a.k.a. the Gravedigger's Pub. Have you heard of this place?
No.
Oh, I want to go so bad. I got my information from Atlas Obscura and GhostCityTours.com. In 1832, a cemetery was built in Dublin, Ireland. A year later, Cavanaugh's Pub was opened directly next door, next to the main entrance of the cemetery, in case anyone was wondering. This spooky pub was named after its earliest owner, John Cavanaugh. Cavanaugh, who famously fathered 25 children, provided booze and beer to the local working class community. A local promotional pamphlet said, all right, getting my Irish on. This was and is a working man's bar of straight talking and creamy pints, a generational mix of customers from all walks of life, trading tales. They drew much of their business from funerals, helping to comfort grieving families for decades. And when they dispersed, it was the grave diggers who'd finish off their shifts with a pint. To set the scene, this is a no-frills bar. The one-room bar features low ceilings, dark wood, and a game of ring board, which I'm not sure what that is, but I'm sure every Irish person does. They have no phone or sound system in the place. Story has it that the gravediggers would bang their shovels on the wall of the pub, bunk, 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 and then shortly later, a pint would be brought through the rails of the cemetery fence to quench their thirst. Now, they no longer keep up with this tradition, but a new fun customer tradition is to throw a shovel of cemetery soil against the property's wall. The same wall that was banged on by the gravediggers all those years ago. And so you can do that today, is throw some cemetery dirt onto the pub wall.
I feel like if they're like, where are they digging the dirt from? Are they just like hitting bones?
Like we ended up like extra cemetery dirt. Let's just
like what? Where is it? That's weird. You're just digging around in a cemetery.
How close are they to the cemetery? Like maybe you're literally like just digging. Like, yeah, what if you strike bone? I don't know the details.
We'll have to go check it out.
Fun little tourist feature there. Throw cemetery dirt on
We have a house in Rochester, New York, adjacent to Mount Hope Cemetery, and there is a piece of tombstone in the yard of the house.
Oh, there's definitely bodies buried under that
And when
house.
you look at the plat map before we, like back in 1900, it actually was a part of Mount Hope Cemetery, like right before the house was built. So I don't know if anyone,
on your land.
I don't know if anyone was actually built there or if it was just land allocated to the cemetery for future burials.
No, there's lots of dead bodies under that house for sure.
Probably so haunted.
So haunted.
No, I'm sure
in the
it's
lease. Speaking of ghosts, some have been seen in this pub. This story comes from Wallace, who worked there in the 70s. He says, one evening, as Uncle Jack Cavanaugh locked up and counted the days till, he let the bad-tempered German Shepherd in. I think that there's supposed to be more about Not
that
really sure
one.
the backstory of the bad-tempered German Shepherd, but he let him in. This dog was such a grump that he was never allowed inside the pub when customers were around, but he was decent enough with Jack. He probably added some extra protection when the counting the money happened, too. Jack had to go upstairs for a moment, says Wallace, but on returning to the door to the bar, he met the dog, hackles raised, growling and backing out of the bar. Jack presumed that there were robbers inside, but he saw nobody. "Shake him, boy!" But the dog was too scared. It would not go inside the bar area. Some unseen thing had terrified a very aggressive dog. Jack was spooked. He locked the door, left the money on the counter, and went up to bed for an uncomfortable night's sleep. In the morning, the cash was all there, and the dog never returned inside the bar again. So Anne, who is now the front of house manager of the pub, has her own story. When she was 17 years old, the family lived in a small second-floor flat above the original bar. She was just falling asleep when she saw a young girl with brown curly hair perched at the foot of her bed. "I kept blinking and realized quickly that I was still awake," Anne said. "There she was, in a white night dress with a frilly collar, puffed up shoulders and long sleeves. She just smiled at me, and then she was gone." There's no way the apparition was the product of too many pints either. "I didn't drink until I was in my 30s, she added, "so there wasn't any relation to drink or anything." And the last story is that a repeated ghost is seen in the pub portion of the bar. It is a man wearing a tweed suit. Eugene, who at the time ran the pub, Eugene Cavanaugh, was shuffling out some late night stragglers from the bar as it was closing. And Eugene had to shuffle out some stragglers in the wee hours of the night when the bar was closing. On one of these nights, the man in tweed appeared for what would be the first of several times. Eugene yelled at the boys to get back to your homes, when they retorted that, "Hey, that's not fair. The guy at the other end of the bar got to stay. He's been nursing his Guinness all night." At first, Eugene thought that the lads were just being drunk and silly. He claimed that he knew every pint that he'd served that night, especially in the last few hours. "I'd have served him that pint, and I haven't served anyone a Guinness," he said. "Look, there's nobody there." And sure enough, no one was there. But there was an empty glass of Guinness sitting at the end of the bar. The boys then described what the old man looked like. He had a pointy beard, a wristwatch with a chain, and he had a real Victorian look. And that is the odd and spooky tale of Cavanaugh's pub in Dublin, Ireland.
I want to go there. I'd love to go to Ireland in general.
Me too.
It just sounds like a good time. Like you can go and hang out with ghosts. I would go there.
Real grit of the earth. I mean, if the pub is right next door to a cemetery, it's bound to have some kind of supernatural something happening.
I agree. Well done. I like that stories.
Thank you now. Do you have an Irishish story for me?
I do. So this story, my friend, comes from the Belfast Telegraph. Belfast taxi driver details experiences with ghosts that left him so scared he'd stayed off booze for decades.
Ooh.
Intriguing. What a hook.
Love it.
The brother-in-law of an apparent poltergeist victim has described how witnessing the paranormal events at a house in West Belfast changed his life. Michael Osborne told Sunday Life he had not touched a drink since the unexplained events at 91 Beechmont Grove in June of 1989, which caused John Skillen and his family to flee their home. What happened with John and his family very much did happen because I was there when about 4 or 5 different incidents did happen, said Michael. My ancestors are not
They're
happy.
crying.
They're crying. You called it an Irish accent, Alyssa. Oh, we.
We, you're French Irish. A little
I was
Scottish mixed
like,
in there too.
we, baby, Alyssa. That's what I was getting at. Like little. Okay. I saw John after he was attacked when he went up to the bathroom, and it is something I can't explain to this day. How do you get scrape marks like nail marks on your ankles? They were very fresh. John is a big lad, over 6 feet, a big strapping guy, and he doesn't fear an awful lot, but he was afraid that day. He wouldn't have believed it at all, but it happened to him, and then he believed. Earlier this month, we told how John, his wife Greta, and their family were terrorized by an apparition of a woman dressed in Victorian clothing who suddenly began appearing in their terraced home in June of 1989. The spirit, whom Michael revealed was called Nora, physically attacked John, starting with the slaps to the face and then escalating to sustained punches in the head and once being thrown across a room. It would eventually force the family to leave the housing executive property, but not before the case made newspaper and TV headlines and drew crowds of curious spectators. John penned his own account of what happened, number 91, a Belfast ghost story, but Michael is the first Skillen relation to speak about the case since. The former taxi driver said, John was a quiet man at the best of times and never feared. But during the whole incident, his brothers and others knew he was in a bit of trouble. It was only because of his family. He didn't want anything to happen to them, and there were things that were happening that he wasn't in control of. I was always skeptical and would have been laughing at most of the things happening, except when it got serious. My reaction was, these people can't be telling lies. My wife never told a lie in her life. It was a terrible thing that happened to them, but they got a lot of sympathy from people. She was a very religious woman, and I don't know what she saw, but she didn't sleep for a while after that. Michael said there was speculation that apparent haunting could have been linked to an old burial ground on the site of a long demolished brickworks near the Skillens' home. This all started with McLattery's brickworks. There was an old graveyard there, and apparently this girl called Nora had a pretty violent death, he added. Michael said he initially had no time for talk of ghosts or anything to do with superstitions, but that soon changed when he went to the Skillen house after the start of the paranormal events. I was a non-believer. I didn't believe any of what was going on, but we went up to give the family a bit of support along with a priest and John's brothers and sisters, he added. So when they were sitting down getting ready for this, whatever it was, to come into the room, I went upstairs to have a lie down. I turned the light on to see where the bed was and then turned it off. But when I lay on the bed, there was somebody already in the bed. I got up immediately and turned the light on again. There was nobody in the bed. There wasn't even a wrinkle on it. I decided to have a bit of a laugh and started to switch the light on and off. I could hear them all saying, "Get upstairs quick." And I stopped. But when I stopped, the lights did it on their own. On another occasion, after the Skillens had been forced to leave the house because of repeated attacks on John, Michael visited the property to check on it. When I went in, I couldn't get out. All the doors had locked and the windows had frosted over, he said. I found it very hard to explain to friends and other people what I experienced. They would say, "Sure, you're a bit of a wind-up merchant." And yes, this was serious. There were people getting hurt. Michael, who was a heavy drinker at the time, added, "When I got to know it, I was scared. It knocked the cockiness out of me. I haven't taken a drink since. I remember asking one of the priests if he believed any of what was going on. He said, 'I very much do. There's something in this room that shouldn't be in this room.'" Not everyone in the area took the episode seriously, with some of the dozens who gathered outside treating it all as a bit of a joke. These people were coming expecting to see a ghost and anything that wasn't normal, and there were people calling to the door with vacuum cleaners strapped to their backs, pretending it was Ghostbusters, recalled Michael. The only time Greta spoke about the matter was after the family requested to be transferred to another address, but that would not be the end of the link between them and the apparition. If we stay in the house at night, she'll appear to my husband, Greta told the Anderson Town News. He's been thrown against the wall. My sons have been slapped around the head. My husband asked, "What in the name of God do you want?" It said, "Get out." Michael picked up the story. John put in for a move of house, but when they got another house, something like 3/4 of a mile away, the family who got John's house came around and asked him if he could bring his ghost with him. So if John and the family were telling lies, why were they asking for the ghost to be shifted back onto them? It's the not knowing that's killing people.
I think of all of it, my least favorite is the one of somebody in the bed with him.
Absolutely. I agree. Like, smack the man around. Wasn't hurting the woman or the kids. She probably hated men. I'm sure she had a bad experience, right? That's the
And he
gotta
was
be
drinking
it.
a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
he probably deserved a little
Oh,
bit
it
of
was
slap
probably
around.
just the wife being like, I don't know, must have been the ghost. Yeah, like her little bitch slapping outfit she'd throw on her like Victorian dress and then
He's
beat the
just
shit
too
out of
drunk
him.
to like realize.
Yeah. Genuinely, if it is a genuine ghost of a woman in a black Victorian dress that like the lights flicker and she lies in your bed, that's a fairly terrifying image. I don't want a kind of ghost experience like that. That's not the one I'm looking for.
Yeah. Speaking of lady ghosts, I have one for you.
An Irish lady? An Irish lasso
lady.
ghost?
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't know. We need to go to Ireland. Will someone
we really
send
do.
Skeletals to Ireland? We need to have like a field trip.
Go instead of gifting us a drink this month, somebody can go gift us some tickets to Ireland. For the podcast, for our accents.
Or even like a Duolingo plus.
Accent-based Duolingo.
Yeah.
All right. This is the story of Dorcus Kelley, a.k.a. Darkey Kelley. Have you heard of this before?
No.
Okay. Apparently, Dorcas means dark in Irish or in... Yes. And so that is why she ended up being Darkey Kelley. Before I get started, I should say that I got my information from spellcasterghosttours.com. She was born Dorcas Kelley, a.k.a. Darkey Kelley. Her life is a mystery. She was the proprietress and madam of one of Dublin's busiest brothels called the Maiden Tower, and serviced many of Dublin's neediest men. One of those regulars was Dublin's sheriff, Simon Luttrell, a member of the House of Commons, first Earl of Carphampton, and a card-carrying active participant of the Hellfire Club. Do you know what the Hellfire Club is?
Isn't it from Stranger Things?
No, that was like Dungeons and Dragons. For those who don't know, the Hellfire Club is kind of like a secret society, and it was all about like sex, Satanism, secret societies, and it was started in the 1700s. And it was like a boys' club, and they like did horrible things, essentially. That's a very, very little gist of what the Hellfire Club is. Okay, now you get an idea.
Was it like elites or did it like...
Yes, elites. So rich aristocrats, they'd get drunk, have drunk orgies, they'd gamble, practice dark arts, murder, human sacrifice. So real like classy shit.
Okay.
And that this Sheriff Simon Luttrell was a card-carrying member of this Hellfire Club.
What the fuck?
Sheriff Luttrell was known to be lewd with an appetite for less traditional activities. He frequented the Maiden Tower and earned the title King of Hell by all those who had the pleasure of his acquaintance. Legend says Madame Darkey accused the sheriff of being the father of her child, which was missing because the king of hell used the baby in a ritual sacrifice with his Hellfire boys. The sheriff screamed, "Lies!" and claimed that Darkey Kelley had cast a spell on him to impregnate her. And she then killed her own baby in a sacrifice to the Dark Lord, Satan, not Lord Voldemort. The madam was then declared a witch, and we all know what happens to witches in Ireland in the 1700s. On January 7th, 1761, Miss Kelley was executed by partial hanging and burning at the stake on Gallows Road. So partial hanging, I believe, is where they just maim you really badly. You're still alive in a lot of pain, and then they burn you alive. After Darkey Kelley's execution, 13 of her best gals stole her remains and gave her a wake on Copper Alley. But apparently, taking their madam's charred bits and paying their respects was too much for the local do-gooders, and those 13 working girls were arrested for disorder and sent to Newgate Prison in Dublin. Madame Darkey's legend lives on. And over 200 years later, many Dublin locals believe Darkey still walks the streets. Those who find themselves off of Fishamble Street in the southwest part of Dublin late at night claim to see the apparition of a woman walking towards Copper Alley, only to fade into the darkness before their eyes. Maybe she's heading for the pub, named after her, Darkey Kelley's, and still slinging suds just a few doors down from where her brothel once stood. Some believe that Darkey's restless spirit still haunts the area, and people visiting this lively spot have reported hearing strange noises, witnessing objects moving of their own accord, and also felt the sensation as if being watched. An interesting side fact about Darkey Kelley is that 40 or so years after she was hung, the bodies of 5 men were discovered in her brothel, and some believe that it could have possibly been Dorcus who did it, but other researchers say that the timelines don't work up, and so they don't think that she did murder them. But
that's crazy, though.
Darkey Kelley.
I think that the Maiden Tower is still an excellent name for a house, a cat house, or a strip club or something.
Yes.
Kind of
Keep
timeless.
that alive.
I want some revenge if my name was Dorcus as well.
I would haunt some bitches on the street for sure.
On it. Absolutely.
All right, do you have another one?
Yes, I do. Okay, so this one comes from Scuzzbox, and they say, I live in and look after a 250-year-old pub. I've been living on the site of a pub in London. Oh, I only got close to Ireland. I forgot what this one.
They have pubs in Ireland and London. They're the same Z's.
Yeah, it's the Isles over there. They're all considered aisles. Okay, let's get on with it. For context, the building for the pub was built roughly around 250 years ago and has real links with the Jack the Ripper murders. The pub through the years has featured, mentions London so many times.
You thought this was in Ireland. I love it. But I'm invested now, so no turning back. Irish-ish. Okay.
The pub through the years has been featured in many ghost encounter haunted London books, with testimony from many of the previous staff who both lived and worked on site, all swearing to have seen, heard, or experienced a number of strange occurrences whilst inside the pub. Not only this, but there have been multiple more recent deaths in the building before I started. Nothing with a pattern, but weird circumstances, most of which I'm not allowed to discuss here to avoid any legal ramifications. I try to be as skeptical as possible. Despite this, I do believe in the paranormal. However, some of the things I have experienced in the last 2 years has made it difficult to be rational. I've listed various instances, and I will update if anything else occurs before I leave in January. My staff and my girlfriend, who lives on site with me, have all had their own experiences with whatever lurks here, and no one feels safe when on their own in the pub. I've also had customers who don't know the pub's history tell staff that they have seen things whilst in the building. My first standout experience. It was a cold night in November 2021. I was on shift with a colleague I've known for many years. I was struggling to change a keg of Peroni and requested the assistance of my colleague. My colleague came down to the cellar and began trying to swap the keg when I suddenly felt something brush past me. It was enough for me to feel uneasy, and in the same moment, the overhead lights all cut out and we heard a woman cackling from the corner of the room. This was enough for me and my colleague to run from the room squealing like little kids. The pub was completely empty at this point and is off the beaten track. There was no explaining the noise that we both heard. So the second standout experience was again with the cellar. I was on shift with another colleague. I went to clean the bathrooms. When I came out, I thought I could see my colleague heading down the stairs to the barrel cellar. I followed shortly after to see what they were up to. With the last instant in mind, I tiptoed down the stairs. When I reached the bottom, I could hear the shuffling of feet around the corner of the cellar. Thinking my friend was playing a prank on me, I followed the shuffling deeper in the cellar. I came all the way to the double doors to the barrel cellar, and I could hear what I thought was my colleague whispering my name. I swung the doors open with an uneasy smile, expecting my friend to jump out, but to my shock and horror, it was pitch black and empty in there. Again, I ran from the cellar only to find my colleague upstairs waiting on me for us to go. I just want to leave at this point. The building feels like it's sapping my energy. And aside from the main instances I've described, I feel like I'm hearing stuff constantly through the night, and something has been visiting me while I'm in bed. And so close to Ireland, like just across maybe the English Channel? Nope, maybe the other thing.
That's why this episode is called Irish.
Irish-ish. That's what I meant. When we
Yes.
said Irish-ish at the beginning, we meant Irish and English. So the second ish is for
ish.
the ish-ish.
But you know what? Haunted, so it counts. It's
Fuck
going
yeah.
in. If you have an Irish tale or ish tale of some kind to share with us, you can write it into our hotbox.
Heck yeah, you can at skelltailspodcast@gmail.com. You can also call the hotline and tell your ish-ish story.
302-689-DEAD, 302-689-3323. We have a merch shop over at skellatailspodcast.etsy where you can get some sweet Skeletales swag, haunted dolls, t-shirts, mugs, you name it, we got it.
Heck yeah, we do. You can also go find us on all the socials. We're on Instagram, Facebook, all them. Find us. We're there. And you can DM us over there as well.
And YouTube. You can listen to all the episodes over there. Plus,
let's try not to swear quite as much.
Good luck.
Fuck.
Also, if you would like to hear and see exclusive Skeletales content never before heard or seen elsewhere, head over to Patreon, Skeletales Podcast over there, where you can become a member of the Skeleteam once you're a member and get access to all of that great content over there.
Fuck yeah. Oh, man. I'm really doing bad at the not swearing thing.
You literally just said, I'm going to be better. And then you said it.
Jolly good times. Go there. Tip, tip, tip. What do people do instead of swear? What do they say?
Really?
What words do they use?
What the fuck? Over in Ireland, they just have different curses.
Bloody. That's one. Bloody fuck. No, there's still real swear in there. Can't say that.
Bloody hell. Bloody hell. Alyssa, is there anything else in this Irish-ish episode that you would like to share?
I know another word. I know another thing we could say. Haunt you later.
Haunt you later now.
tea. Good night. Top of the night to ya.
Top of the night to ya. Good night. Oh,
You never hear
so
that. I think
true.
that's a thing.